Hi, this is David again. And this is another request that I've had. And I consulted my 13-year-old on it because I didn't want to make a mistake, as usual. Someone asked me, do you have the right as a parent to force a religion upon a child that doesn't want that religion? Well, this opens up a lot of interesting questions. First of all, I have a little bit of a law background. I've been arrested 100 times. No. I got 9 DUI. No. Battering, restraining orders. No, I don't have any of that. I went to law school for 1 year in Ventura, California. And when I found out you had to be a criminal and a con artist to be an attorney, I quit. But anyway, the law says that, yes, the law is pretty straight in every state that a parent has a right to choose the child's religion. Okay, well, a parent also has a right to determine for every child that is legally theirs their morality, their drug addiction or lack of addiction, or smoking or drinking or boyfriends. Yeah, parents have all of the legal rights to force their opinions and their belief system upon their children. Now, I'm not sure that that's the real question, because that's the real answer right there. If you want to know, turn it off. That's it. Now, a person that's had as many children as I've had over a long time, and I still have a 9 and a 13-year-old in the house, I've learned a few things. And this is for me. You have a different way of doing it, please. You're the parent. Do it your own way. But here's kind of what I've found. And my wife, my little returned missionary wife, who refuses to look at one tape. I have, 350 tapes. She hasn't seen one. I think she's afraid she'll be converted. But anyway, when a child is small, say 0 to 9, 10 years old, they don't have a lot of questions about life. They kind of see parents and caregivers as the gods of the world. They protect them, they feed them, they live with them, and when the boogeyman comes to get you at night, the babies will run into your bed and snuggle down and feel safe. I'm going to just tell you my experience again and my thought process. I'm only 64. And so, I still hopefully have a few more months to live. I don't know. It can go any moment. But when a child is 9 or 10 and below, I think that a parent has every duty and right to say, we're going to Catholicism and we're going to go to a catechism, not seminary. Or if they're Mormons, they say you're going to seminary, but they don't go at 9 or 10. Now, things happen. And if you're a young parent, it seems like life's good. Life's easy. From 0 to 10 or 11, life is easy. But damn, once they start growing boobs, and once they start to be in 7th and 8th and 9th grade with their friends, it does something to their head. Not just their body, but to their head. And they'll come home and go, Dad, my friends are drinking. What's wrong with drinking? Well, hopefully you've developed a relationship with your kids. So far, I have with these 2 kids, where they'll come to me and say stuff like that. And, I'll tell them the truth. I'll say, well, drinking doesn't necessarily hurt you. But when you're a girl, drinking, the first thing it does is it impairs your judgment. And the first thing that happens when your judgment is impaired is that your panties will fall off. And my 13-year-old goes, oh, really? I go, yeah, that's what will happen. The boys will try to get you to take a couple of beers or a little drink, or they might put a pill in your food or whatever. And before you know it, you got no panties. Oh, I don't want that. So she's making her own decisions because all I'm doing is providing the truth and information. Now, my 9-year-old, she still sleeps with her rabbit and is cute as hell because we went up to Park City the other day and I was going to take the kids skiing. And the 9-year-old said, well, I don't know anything about skiing, and if I fall down, I'll turn into a snowball. I said, Allison, you've been watching too damn many cartoons. You don't turn into a snowball. Yes, I will. Yes, I said, well, then I'll catch you at the bottom as you snowball down to... That, I don't think you're old enough. You can't, or you're too old. You can't catch me. That's a smart kid there. So when they're 9, they're cute, and they bring their bunny in, and I had one girl, loved her Night Night. It was her blanket. Oh, my God. Monica. She used to stand in front of the dryer while the dryer was drying it because it was just a rag by the time she was 9 or 10, but she wanted to watch that be washed and dried. So I'm saying that there's a lot of difference between a 0 and a 10-year-old child. Now, when they start to develop as a teenager, their mind is not always in sync with their body. Sometimes you will see some boys and some girls will become very, very teenage in their mind, but their bodies are still pre-teen. And then sometimes you see the opposite, where the girl or the boy is very mature. You know, he's got a beard down like, Whistler, and she's got boobs that you can't even find the end of it. And suddenly their mind, they have no idea that they have boobs and a beard. So it doesn't match. Maturation is an extremely complex physiological, psychological, emotional, and social development. So every child is going to be different. Please, if you're going to take anything out of this video, please take that every child is different and that every parent has an obligation to know their children and not to put them all in the same stereotyped pinhole and treat them all the same. You can treat them fairly, but you cannot treat children equally because they're not equal. Some are smarter, some are dumber, some are bigger, some are shorter, some are boys, some are girls. So get out of your mind, at least I have, that I don't treat my kids identical. They're not equal. They are different, and I treat them fairly, but not equally. Now, can a parent force a child to go to the parent's religion after 10, 11 years old? Well, yeah. You can drag a 10, 11, maybe even a 12, an immature 12, to your religion and hope and pray to Jesus that they're going to get the testimony that you want them to get. Now, here's the problem. Every time you drag them somewhere they don't want to go, they're going to be angry. And if you're a punitive kind of a parent and you demand this is what you're going to do, and if you're going to live under my roof, I love that. I always say to my wife and my kids, well, I'm leaving. And, well, don't let the door hit you in the ass. That's a bad dad. It's a bad husband. My little Filipino wife, when she first came, says, I don't like some of the things in this country. I said, honey, you got a brand new car and you know where the airport is. Just put it on a credit card. Don't let the door hit you in the ass. Well, she's still here. She speaks good English now, so she knows when I'm shitting her. So you can drag that 10, 11, and 12-year-old to your religion, but they're going to sabotage it. They're going to climb out the window. They're going to make friends with the kid that has the tattoos on his nose and his forehead and 8 rings in his ears and in his lips. And, he's just on probation and he's only 12. And your daughter is going to go, hey, I got to come to church? There's my boyfriend. There's a retaliatory, there's a fighting spirit that is inside a teenager that you can get caught up. If you try to force a teenager, you're probably going to shoot yourself in both feet. That's been my experience. I have tried to be honest with the kids. I've tried to tell them the truth, my definition of the truth, my perspective, and then I've let them pretty much learn on their own. Now, I put a stop right here, okay? If you've got a 2-year-old and you're trying to teach them independence, if they're going to run out in front of the road of an 18-wheeler, you better go get that kid, pick him up, and you are the God. You are the authority. Well, what do when a 12-year-old, 13-year-old comes home and she's either been drinking or she's got a new boyfriend now, and, he's still in 9th grade, but he's 27 years old. What do? Do you say, you're living under this roof, you can't date him? Well, God, she'll climb out the damn window. And then she'll live with him and say, well, my parents didn't want me, so I'm here. Just screw me and let's have grandchildren. And dad and mom will be punished. You've got to be careful not to get involved in teenage retribution. It's tricky. It is tricky, and it's a thin line. It's a very thin line, and it is a balancing act like on a tightrope. So, what do I do? What do I advise? And my advice is what you pay for it. Zero. So if it's bad advice, you can't sue me. You can, but you'll never get a judgment that's worth anything. And I can avoid service. I have wigs and hats and beards and shit. I hide behind trees. I put on one of my bill collectors the other day. Deceased. What are they going to do? Call you up and go, is your husband really dead? They're not going to do that. But anyway, don't underestimate teenagers. They're very mature in some areas of their brain, very immature in other areas. To have a balanced teenager, I know the women are going to turn this off. It's kind of like having a balanced wife 28 days of the month. There's a few days they're not real balanced. Okay, enough of that. Don't let your teenagers be the tail wagging the dog, but at the same time, you can't be the dog beating the teenager with your doctrine, your philosophies, and the way you want to see life. Now here's what my 13-year-old and my wife just said, and I'm in agreement with this kind of child behavior and child rearing. Once that child is old enough to verbally say to you, Dad, I don't want to light candles. I don't want, wearing crucifixes on my neck, my St. Christopher medal, and I don't want dice hanging down and an Elvis picture with Jesus on the wall. I'm not into Catholicism. Or, Joseph Smith married 30 other women that were married and teenagers. I'm not into that religion, Dad. I'm sorry. I think you have every right in the world to sit down and discuss it with the child. And here's the problem. As adults, we think we know it all. We think we've been there, done that, and they're stupid. I'll tell you something, they're not. They're not. You've got to remember that story about the frog. If you throw a frog into boiling water, it'll jump out and live. But if you put the water in cold water and then slowly heat it to a boil, it will die. Well, that seems to be kind of a life principle. And if you approach a teenager by assuring them that they know nothing, that they're stupid, and that you know everything, that you're 50 years older than they are, and you saw this once in a movie, they're going to say, Dad, come on. And they'll climb out the damn window. They'll go over to their friend's house. They'll drink. You'll be looking for them at night with a damn flashlight. And then, would you call the police? When do you call the police? You call them too soon, you look stupid. You don't call them soon enough, you get in trouble with the Department of Social Services. So a teenager can be a big responsibility, and they're tough. You got to be smart. If you're going to raise a teenager, you can't be a dumb shit, because your teenager most likely is going to be in jail or juvenile hall, and you're going to be spending most of your time bailing them out and then looking for a dog, the bounty hunter, with your kid, and suddenly your whole life is down the shitter. So here's my advice as children turn into adults. You've got to give some leeway. You've got to give some ability for a human being to learn. Like I said, a 2-year-old jumping in front of an 18-wheeler, you become God. You grab that kid and get them the hell out of there. A teenager that comes home with a boyfriend that's in 8th grade and he's 28 years old, and he's interested in one thing, and that's the thing you've been protecting for 16 years on that girl. If you jump in there like a Banshee Indian. Oh, I hope that's... Am I politically correct? Can there be Banshees? I don't know anymore. A Banshee Native American. Is that right? I don't know. But if you jump in there and act like a damn fool, you're going to get a response from a teenager that's much different than a 2-year-old that you yanked out of the road. If you embarrass her in front of her friends, if you criticize her, if you make fun of her clothes, my 13-year-old will come out and there's days she's just as cute as can be, and then there's other days she looks like she's just stepped out of a circus. Well, what do I say? Circus girl? No, I don't say that. And same way with, her bathing suits and all the other kinds of things. She's going to a Valentine's dance and she wants to wear Levi's. I said, well, most Valentine's dance you'd wear, a skirt or a dress. But you can't jump on their shit when they're teenagers. You just can't. I learned at BYU when I did my practicum. I was in social work, and I had Edna Hill. I'm sure she's dead. She was 60 when I was at BYU. Now she's 140. So Edna taught me. She said, David, when you're in somebody's house and you're taking information on a social work information sheet, if a pig walks through the room, you don't even look up. You just keep writing and you pretend you didn't see the pig. Well, that has been one of the greatest pieces of advice I ever had in school and in social work and dealing with human beings. And it's a wonderful piece of advice with teenagers. When she comes home, and one day she wants to be an astronaut, the next day she wants to be a heart surgeon, then she wanted to be an airline pilot when she saw a Learjet take off in Midway the other day up in the Park City area. And she's fickle as can be. She plays classical piano, but then she listens to hip-hop all the time, and she won a spelling bee at school, and she wants to be this, she wants to be that. Well, this is part of growing of a human being. And the boys may be interested in soccer and then basketball, and they may not be interested in girls for 2 or 3 years, or they may be interested in girls in 5th and 6th grade like I was. And I've just never lost that interest. But anyway, leave that as it may. You're going to have to negotiate. You're going to have to think, and you're going to have to go back in your life and give examples, give a lot of conversation. And then you need to learn, and I don't mean to say, I feel like the Mormon prophet, you need to learn. I need to learn. All of us as parents need to learn to say, well, honey, what do you think? When she says, well, Dad, is it okay if I have sex? Because you don't get pregnant all the time. Well, most of us fall off the chair. Jeez, you know, we're going to go into the parental satanic ritual Pele ale dance. You don't do that. I tried. I don't do that because I was trained, like I said, at BYU. And when I, get a question like that, I'll say, well, honey, what do you think? And then the real questions will be coming out. Well, I kind of like this boy. And, the girls say that, to keep a boyfriend, you got to put out. And I said, well, honey, how do you feel about that? And if you keep going back, how do you think? How do you feel? The child actually has some common sense. Believe me, children are pretty smart little creatures. If the volume is low, it's calm, and they're safe, and they go, well, Dad, I don't know. I just don't think it's right. If he really likes me, why does he have to take my panties off? I said, well, honey, I think that's a good question. I think you really need to sit down and think about that. And before you know it, many times, mine will walk out and they'll go, I ain't putting out. Screw that. See, it's a counseling technique. Counselors never tell you what to do if they have a degree. Counselors let you work, and the questions are key. And they watch as your brain begins to dissect and to be able to think and process what the problem is. And rather than the counselor jumping up and down and hitting you with a broom and saying, don't put out, you don't need a boyfriend. Well, she does need a boyfriend, but maybe not that boyfriend. So I really think that you need to negotiate. I think you need to educate. And then I think you need to sit back and go, well, honey, what do you think? Well, and now you'll see that look on their face where their damn brain turns on. If you and me keep yelling at them and slapping them with the 2x4 alongside the head, their brain never turns on. Their anger turns on, and before you know it, you're chasing your teenager through the window at 2 o'clock in the morning. You're smart because you put GPS on her phone, but she threw her phone in the trash truck at 8 o'clock in the morning and never showed up at school, and you're chasing a trash truck. If you think you're going to outsmart them, you're wrong. They'll outsmart us. And I think to be a wise parent, you can't force your religion on a child who's able to say, it's not for me. And then you say, well, honey, why don't you see that Joseph Smith married 30 women and had 2 14-year-olds? This year, you're going to be 14. Don't you think a 38-year-old man should be able to roll around in bed with you naked and just screw your brains out? And you'll see your brain turn on, and she'll go, no, I don't think that's right. So you don't have to pound them and shake them and, throw them on the ground and say, hey, I'm the father if you're going to live under this roof. And they'll say, I don't want to live under this roof, and they'll leave. I had, when I was a hardcore Mormon, I had 2 or 3 kids leave at 14. And subsequently, they turned out to be decent people, and they're business people, and one's got an MBA. But that's probably an aberration. Most kids that leave a family at 14 are going to have some real problems in growing and developing, etc. So the answer to the question, can we force our religion upon our young people? Yeah, we can until around 9 or 10. When they put that little bunny down and that teddy bear down, and suddenly, oh, my little 9-year-old this morning, she dresses herself now, and she was wearing earrings. She's in 3rd grade. I looked at her and I wanted to do what I'm saying to do on this video. If I had said, take those ears, you're too young, you look like a whore, If I'd done that, she would have taken them off. And then you know what I found? That she puts them in her backpack. She gets to school, she puts them back on. I've seen this 3rd grader take clothes to school that we told her she wasn't allowed to wear. And if you don't check her backpack or she puts them under the seat of the car, suddenly you pick her up at school and she's not in the same clothes you took her to there. And her shoes can change. So they're going to outsmart us. There's no doubt about it. These little ones, they have nothing better to do. They have no jobs. They have no responsibilities. They have a lot of time to think shit up. And they will fool us. They'll change clothes. They'll change earrings. I let her wear the earrings. And, when she came home, I think the pictures of Satan on the wall with earrings may have influenced her. No, I didn't do that. I just ignore it. And tomorrow she'll probably not have earrings. So we've got to be flexible. We've got to be understanding. We've got to be kind. And we've got to realize these people are not our property. These are not black children. We didn't buy them. They were not on the auction block. They're human beings that we adopted or created or took, legal responsibility for. So be flexible, be kind, be understanding, and realize if you get in a fight with a 3rd grader, she's going to strangle you with her earrings. So I suggest you just don't do that, and I won't do it either. Thanks. Bye.